51, and I am one of your hosts, Josh. And joining me, as always, from the land of Nod, is none other than Mr. Yonk. What's up, Brandon?
That was a very good Ben Stein impersonation. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. Bueller. What's up, fella?
Not much. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. We haven't talked in forever.
Yeah. It's been about 10 minutes.
10 whole minutes. I don't know what I was going to do with myself. We were, I say we, I was listening to some Wax Fang before we went live. A little behind the curtain stuff here. One of the things I do to make sure that all of the audio is, on point, make sure all the meters are ticking and, all the audio is going through for the podcast, the audio podcast. I show up to the chat early and just start jamming out. At some point, I suppose I will get around to adding a tier on the Patreon where, yeah, if you wanna show up early and just kind of hang out in the private chat while I get everything ready and jam out to some music, watch some short films, just stuff to get the old meters in balance, then that'll probably be on a Patreon tier at some point. But until then, it's just me, and I tried to get a little rise out of Brandon, say Wax Fang, man, that's a good band, that was a good song we listened to. And all I got was Silencio.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, I was playing Gunsmoke on Nintendo, so I wasn't really paying attention to what the music was that was playing. So
that's actually very fair. How many times have you called and I've been playing Apex Legends? Like, yeah, Brandon, that's Okay.
Yeah, what about times when I call you and I hear like gunshots in the background because you're playing a first-person shooter and have everything on blast?
No, I just wear headphones.
It
just so happens that I shove the phone between the headphone and my ear, so the audio is piping through the back of my phone. Didn't know it was being picked up.
It's not like it's like when I call. Well, it's like when I call a buddy of mine and he's playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and I call him one time. This is like when the game was brand new. Okay, the game just come out, and I call him. It was one of the cutscenes, and one of the cutscenes it was Trevor screaming at someone, going psychotic, and I honest to God thought that someone was in his house screaming at somebody else. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I mean, I didn't panic because it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case with this guy. But just with you, I'll call you and I hear like a gunshot ringing on my ear. Like, what the hell's going on?
It's Florida, so
you playing a first-person shooter? No, I'm not. Yeah, you're playing a first-person shooter? No, I'm not playing a first-person shooter.
No.
Like, okay.
Confession time. Every time you think, okay, this is an honest God confession. Brand doesn't know what I'm about to say. Sometimes we're talking on the phone and you hear the clickety-clacks of the controller, and every once in a while you're like, what was that? I'm like, I didn't say anything. And you're like, I swear I heard something. And, it's usually one of my teammates on the headset. You could hear.
Well, I mean, it's one of those deals. Like, I mean, it's like if I hear that, if I hear something like while I'm talking, I hear something like just break out randomly while I'm mid sentence with you. It's like, what the hell was that? It's like, I don't know. And it'll be quiet for a second. I'll start saying something else to you, and then I'll hear the noise again. Like, Josh, what is that noise? I don't know. Oh, are you talking about the game controller? Like,
I don't know.
I'm talking about whatever's making that noise.
What noise? I don't know what you're talking about, buddy.
But, oh my God. So anyway, would you like to tell people what our show is about tonight?
Oh, sure. We got to do one of those things. Hold on, let me pause the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get asked all the time, they're like, Josh, you make movies, right? And I'm like, not really. And they're like, well, you've been in movies, right? And I was like, yeah, I've been in some movies. they're like, what, how do you make a movie? And I'm like, you don't have the millions of dollars that's needed to make a high quality film. And they're like, is there any way to just do it? Like you keep saying to just do it? I'm like, actually, there is.
Yeah,
So
there's
tonight,
multiple.
we are going to talk about how to make a movie, essentially. And I know, and Brandon knows that not everybody has access to millions or even thousands of dollars to put together, a crew, a laundry list of good equipment, and blah blah blah. But basically, we're going to talk about the lowest of the low end ways to make a movie, a narrative, visual film. That was a weird feedback loop, and we're gonna kind of walk you through it, the steps that you need to follow to take your idea and bring it to life. Again, there are a lot of ways to make movies, and most of them are not good. We're talking about you making a movie with basically whatever's on hand. And I'm not saying it's impossible to take that idea and turn it into a multi-million-dollar franchise. After all, it's happened. Weird stuff has happened. But what we're saying is, at the very least, you will know how to put together a project with your friends and have fun. And I think that is the ultimate goal for what this topic ultimately is. We will talk about some people that have had a lot of success, just kind of DIYing it to start them. But that's for a little bit later on. So, you ready to get this started, Mr. Brandon?
Cool. And just an FYI for everybody, right now, there is one big thing I want to stress on people is that people, and hey, Pop, I'll send $100 investment, maybe more. Well, thank you for your kind interest in, blindly investing in something. No, but no. For everyone that sees ML junk in the comments, that is my parental figure of the male gender. But no, people. Okay, at my job, I work at night. I work in healthcare. I took a night shift fairly recently, so I could spend more time focusing on getting everything ready for the project that you and I are working on. You, myself, Brian, Mark, and a few other very talented people have been very diligently working on. And I've got to say this: there are Facebook groups. Last week we spoke about toxicity, right?
Yeah, we might have mentioned that a
That
time or two.
that toxic nature doesn't just spill into like fandom; it also spills into career paths.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rampant with and it's fueled by egos. It's driven by ego, especially in the film industry. There are actually, I'm sure you've seen this, Josh. There are Facebook groups where someone will post a job saying, "Well, I can't afford to. These are the rates that I'm able to pay for this position," and people will just tear that person apart.
Oh yeah.
And the group that I started a group in, I think it was May or June of 2019
Happy
when we filmed
anniversary.
the short, to get together to film Bad Agents. I started this group. And I've worked very closely with the people involved in the very first production on multiple projects. And none of us got paid on those projects. It's just a matter of having fun, expressing yourself, being part of, just being on set. There's nothing more exhilarating to me than being on set. Christ, when I was working on this day 2 of the project this past weekend, at that point, I was up for like 30 hours straight before we even started filming and I was directing the set. I wasn't even tired. So, I mean, the biggest thing is if you're going to film something, what I'm trying to get to here is you don't have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in your pockets to pay cast, crew, everything else. You can talk to friends, you can talk to family, you can get local people. It's a little harder in Los Angeles because everyone out here is an aspiring actor, screenwriter, director, whatever. But in towns like, like parts of like Florida, like, if you live in like East Bumble, like in Ocala, or like in Waycross, Georgia, and like, people are aspiring to one day be an actor or whatever, and like, or if they've acted in plays in school, you can talk to your friends and family in these areas and ask them if they'd be willing to, help you film a short by just acting.
Well, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like paying wages, of course. If it's a professional production, yes, you have to pay people. With a budgeted production, you have to pay people. When it is a micro budget and everything else, food is a great thing. Food and reels, but like, let's go ahead and not jump ahead of myself. I apologize for that. It's just I was reading something, and I'm still in Facebook jail for another 2 days, so I can't comment on these things. But like you said, we'll get there. But so what is your first pointer?
Well, my first tip, my step one is, some people would say it's writing your script. No, I can't advise that immediately, especially if this is something you want to film yourself. First thing you need to do is take inventory. What do you have access to? Gear, locations, people. Make a list. What do you have access to? And go through that list. You'll find that you have a lot more access to things than you realize. You can create a spaceship, and I've seen this done, spaceship out of a cardboard box. And as long as you're willing to put in the work to, make that inside of the cardboard box look all spacey, you got a spaceship. So take inventory, take stock of your gear, people, locations, abilities. What can you do? And write it all down. And that will form the basis of what you're about to write. In most situations, especially for writers, you're going to want to, have your story. You're going to have to want to have a story to tell. But remember, for this particular episode, the theme is we're telling you how to produce something. And if you don't have access to tools or things you need to do it, then what's the point in writing it? Because you can't produce it. So take inventory. That's my first tip.
You can film it in your head.
Yeah, but putting it in your head's not going to put it, it's not going to distribute from your head.
Wow. Listen to you. So much negativity.
I know, it's so off-brand for me.
Those are very good points. I mean, like, that's actually a very fair assessment, though. I mean, that's inventory is a big thing. I mean, it's like if you your camera, the camera on your phone can actually, like, guys, we're in 2021. Zack Snyder. I was just telling Josh about this. First off, I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder. I'm not. I think he's a great visualist. His directing is,
does beautiful things with a camera.
Oh yeah, absolutely. His cinematography, like the way he frames a shot, the style of his style of cinematography, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You could frame.
It's just a shame that all of his, huh?
I said you could frame every cell, throw it on a wall, and it would look beautiful.
Absolutely. But he just did a short film that won numerous awards. I forget what it was called, but I think it was actually a series of short films. But he shot it on his iPhone, and it's not like there's a whole lot in his there's not a whole lot in this like I guess in this inventory that he used that was really expensive outside the I think the iPhone was the most expensive part. The set dressing, as I said, it was like more like a classic kind of set dressing, meaning like a bunch of classic cars that you would see in a private collection or in a museum or in the basement of Jay Leno's mansion. But outside that, like it was actually, I think he even did the editing through an app on his phone. Everything was done on his phone. There are no words in it. There's no dialogue. And it was a very beautifully shot film. It was actually stunning. But yeah, just the basic necessities. Just because he wanted to challenge himself and go back to his early filmmaking days and see what he could work with next to nothing. You know, and I think I even told you earlier, like it's always sunny in Philadelphia. It's a multiple award-winning TV show right now. It's been around for I think 15, 16 years. They pitched this show to FX with nothing but some footage filmed on a VHS tape on a camcorder. That's it. So yeah, inventory is a big thing. But then I would say after the inventory, that is when you need to start planning the writing process. Do the writing. But keep in mind what kind of budget you have to film with. If you don't have a budget, you write something that you can film for free. Josh, you and I joked about an idea for a script of a guy or two guys, I forget what it was, but them walking around in what appears to be a desert, completely stranded. And what it was is these characters just happened to lose their car in the parking lot of a mall or something, and they're walking on the outskirts of a mall in a desert community. So they're not really stranded in the desert. They just, lost the damn car.
Mm-hmm.
That would cost next to nothing to film,
And
especially
should
from
be
an
very
iPhone.
compelling.
Yeah, it would cost
The
nothing to film, especially if it's just like from a phone. You wouldn't have to have dialogue in it. It would just be like, you know, the guy's an idiot. I lost my car one time in Santa Monica. I parked in a parking garage. I didn't remember which parking garage I parked it in. And it took me 5 hours to find the damn thing. Shit happens. Guys are dumb.
For those interested, I did post the link to Zack Snyder's short film in the chat.
No, good. You found it. It saves me from having to look for it.
Yeah, it's called Snow Steam Iron. Some of these comments. Underrated director. Okay. He has a very massive following, and that people think he can do no wrong, but he's underrated. Sure. Anyway, so yeah, the story comes together after you figure out what you have to work with, and make sure you write it.
Yeah.
I don't know how that can be any more stressed. If you're going to write a script, you have to write it, not just half-ass it. Just like write the script. You'd be surprised at how often people don't understand what goes into writing a screenplay. It's
No.
more than just words. It's definitely a lot more than just bullet points. Yeah, there are places you can take a few liberties. I know we talked about it a while back on the show, Scrubs.
Yep.
The writers, during certain points would have, okay, janitor line, whatever Neil comes up with. But it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
It's still saying this is the character that needs to talk. Maybe maybe they're ad-libbing something, but you still left it in the script for them to ad-lib something. That way, when you take the next step in breaking down your script, because, surprise, after you build it up, after you write it, you have to break it down and figure out exactly how you're going to be shooting this. So, you have to know who is saying a line at any given point in time. Doesn't matter what the line is. But you're going to need a shot for it. So when you break down, you start to put together shot lists, which is going to be one of the next steps. Brandon's probably going to take lead on that one. But make sure you have a completed script. I understand. Maybe you want a movie that looks like Super Mario Brothers, where they're just like rewriting day of every day. But no.
Oh yeah, you know there was no shot list for that thing. With as much as I was being rewritten on the fly daily, I guarantee there was a shot list, but it was probably all covered up in permanent marker.
But from what I understand, it was a good place to get drunk.
Oh yeah, and a good place to get injured, according to Bob Hoskins. So yeah.
Well, you know. So that's I guess the number 3 thing. When you write your script, finish it completely. When you finish writing it, read it, and then write it again. I'm not saying start over, but edit it. Don't just go on a first draft. You're already.
You don't like reading.
What's that?
You don't like reading someone's first draft where they think it's a masterpiece?
Not unless it's mine.
Christ, man. Even when I had when I wrote The Groomsman back in 2008, 2009, I'll tell you right now, man, that script, I remember writing the first draft. I'm like, oh my God, I'm done. And, I have I've got to say this. If you have any plans on ever writing anything, this is not a paid promotion at all, but the Screenwriter's Bible by David Trottier. I recommend this book to anyone. Again, the Screenwriter's Bible by David Trottier. He is so insightful with these volumes of books. But I finished writing this feature-length script, and after I did the line budgeting, the years and years and years down the line, meaning last month, I realized how expensive this thing would cost to make. But I'll tell you right now, I was like, oh my God, I'm done with my first screenplay. I'm finished. Yay. And then I was reading the book, and it's like, do not make sure that your script is finished. Do not rely on the first draft, because the first draft of The Groomsman was I think 173 pages. This, mind you, this is post film school. I just didn't really pay attention in my screenwriting course at all. Sorry, Eves, if you're listening. But yeah, multiple drafts. You have to have multiple drafts. Back your stuff up, smooth it out, trim out the fat. Anything that does not move the story forward, get rid of it. You may love a scene. If it does nothing for the plot, leave it. And again, I have to stress this. If you have no money, write a script that you can film for nothing, to where the only expenditure you have to worry about is feeding people. But yeah, what was the next thing? The shot list, right?
One more thing before that. Two more things. In the chat, I have once again supplied you with a link to thriftbooks.com for the Screenwriter's Bible by David Trottier. So click that. Buy the book. It's $6. So there you go.
You're going to go tell people, listen, David Trottier is a friend of mine on Facebook. I cannot tell you how excited I was when that day happened. But you're going to sit there and go to a personal social media friend of mine, and you're going to tell all these people, all 3 people listening to our podcast right now, to go rip off this personal social media friend of mine by buying a used copy of his book.
Always.
Complicated. Well, I mean, if we're talking about like writing on a budget, you might as well like buy a book on the budget too. So
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted to get to is when you're ready to edit, when you think you're done, you need to. And this is going to sound really weird, but bear with me. Show it to somebody that hates you.
absolutely.
That's the best advice I can give. Show it to somebody that hates you, because if you show it to somebody that loves you, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's great! You got like the 90 pages and everything." It's like, no, you got to be somebody that's gonna be like brutally honest. Find an enemy and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, Dogface, I wrote this. What do you think?"
Yeah, I mean, how many times do I tell you like something sucks?
Never. You say everything I write is good.
That's right. I do it behind your back like a good friend.
Exactly. So yeah, um, and let's say you did this, you get your notes, you have your final draft, you have an inventory of everything you need. You know what camera you're going to use, which from the sounds of it looks like it might be your phone, it might be your Handycam, whatever you have available to record images. You have all that. You know what you're shooting with. That's the important thing. So, Brandon, how does one make a shot list?
Oh, there's a lot of crying involved. No, pretty much the shot list is just a series of the shots that you want to see in the film. Like how it's a map, basically. It's a map to smooth out the production when it comes time to actually directing. Lets you know where everything's going to happen, what angles are going to happen. So if you're shooting with like say we're going with a phone, okay, your shot list should have every single angle that you're going to be filming with. So if it's like an over the shoulder shot, a wide shot, a medium wide shot, any kind of camera movement, you have to have that stuff in there. It's a necessity, and it is a pain in the ass. And it's really easy to make a shot list and go balls to the wall. I mean, hell, when I was filming, I think it was on the 8th when we were filming. Right? Was it the 8th when we filmed the first segment for the project?
Yeah, I think so.
Um, what I submitted to the group, you know, again, it comes down to honesty and making sure that the people you're showing this stuff to do in fact have your back. I showed the shot list to Mark and to Brian and all of them, and all they said to me was like, "Well, we appreciate the balls that you have with this." Because my shot list was like I think 3 pages long or something like that. It was extensive, but yeah. So you make the shot list. You just make sure that way when it comes time to filming, you're not leaving anything to chance. There's an old saying: you never half-ass one thing. You never half-ass a few things. You always whole-ass one thing. Um, and that's the whole point of the shot list. Like it's just like to make sure that your production, like the whole time that you're on set, is as smooth as possible. So you have to write down like what actors or what characters are in a scene together. Describe the scene best you can, and that's it. So if it's like a conversation over the shoulder shot, it's scene one A, scene two B. I'm sorry, scene one A, scene one B. Character says something, then then reacts to the other character reacts to what the person said, then responds to that character. I mean, stuff like that. The shot list is very important. Again, it's a pain in the ass, it's exhausting, especially if it's a last minute rewrite or something like that, and you have to go back and edit the shot list or squeeze something into the chart. But you can do a shot list on Microsoft Excel. It's very simple. And there's plenty of free resources and samples to look at online. If you ever get confused about what a shot list is, you can always look it up, just Google it. I mean, that's pretty much how I learned to do one. So, and Josh, what else do you have?
Well, as far as that's concerned, at all times, well, not all, I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, if at all possible, that's the phrase I was going for. Try to use a shorthand for your shot list, because writing it out completely is a time killer. And if you're doing this, time is not something you really want to waste. You want everything compact. You want everything tight. That way, when it comes time to shoot, it's a glance and you're ready to move on to the next shot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like wide, like don't write wide shot, just write wide, medium wide, MED wide, or MEDW, close up CU, medium close up MCU. Like, I mean, there's no reason to drive yourself crazy with it.
exactly. Next, though, we're gonna be getting to that subject that I think Brandon is just chomping at the bit to talk about: casting
Oh yeah.
and crew.
Yep.
You're going to want people to help you. Now, naturally, your first go-to is friends and family, right? Well, you know what? That's cool. If you have friends and family that are willing to help you, then by all means, I would consider them to be your first crew. Not necessarily your first cast. You would be surprised at how many people will respond to a simple free ad on Craigslist for an actor. So, if you're doing this so low budge that you can't afford to, throw down bucks for Denzel or George Clooney, then an ad is the way you're going to want to go. And yeah, it's going to involve meeting people, but you know what? Half of this business is meeting people. Maybe even more than half, to be honest, because
all of it.
Networking is extremely important. That's how you get future projects, if that's what you're into. So, it costs nothing to put an ad on Craigslist for an actor. But, if you're going to do that, be upfront. Absolutely be honest from the jump. This is a non-paying gig. Let them know that there is no money involved and what you will need. Because it's a bad look to say, okay, I'm going to need somebody from this day for these hours, and maybe this day for these hours. And then, while you're there, oh, I need you for this day, and this day. You're asking someone to completely empty a schedule for no money. You should get on your knees and thank them for showing up in the first place. But
yeah, in the most oral way possible. Thank them on your knees.
You will find people to fill out your cast. And if you're going to do this, try to do with actors. I'm sure, Cousin Marlene knows how to recite a line or two. But if you're going to cast someone from your family, you have to make them audition. It's a must. Because if somebody else comes along and they're better and you're like, oh man, I regret this. Why did I cast Cousin Marlene in that role? When I could have had this person doing it for the same price. But there's that other thing that Brandon was talking about. When you have people show up and you have them doing work, because let's face it, whether this is some sort of, SAG shoot or just you in your backyard with a camcorder, you gotta bring a little something to the table. And even if you are literally just bringing something to the table, it doesn't cost much to throw together a lunch.
Nope.
And
depending on, like, if it's a big crew, it'll cost you like, go cheap. But I will say this also, and I learned this from working with Becca. Always find out allergies. Always. You're feeding these people. This is a payment. Allergies are a big thing. This kind of also goes to show that you care a little bit. Like, it's like, hey, I don't want you dead, bro.
it's important not to kill the people volunteering for your film.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, it's unless it's like something you can frame as like an accident and you're like on the life insurance policy and and then you really need to move on to a really big budget film, then okay.
The
I
views and
think it's
opinions
like,
of Brandon Drunk do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the WADcast or Semicore Studios.
no risk, no reward. But joking, don't kill people. It's bad. Okay. Really
Yeah,
bad.
killing people is bad.
Yeah.
Can't believe we had to
Bad.
say that. But take care of the
Oh
people
man.
that are volunteering their time to show up and work for you, because that's what they're doing. They are working for you. Whether they're holding a boom or reciting your lines, they are there to help bring your dream to life. And the least you could
Exactly.
do is feed them. And by the way, if you go out and get a cooler full of bottled water and you think that's enough, it's not. Get more. Always get more.
Oh yeah. Do you have any idea how much I spent just like on crafty services?
Mm.
For those two shoots. And granted, not a whole lot of it was done. I mean, they're like, and everybody, I gotta say this: the project I'm working on right now, the last 2 weekends, like the 2 weekends that we did these shoots, were very unorthodox. You know, this past weekend we were on set for I think like maybe 3.5, 4 hours tops, filming. And the week before that we had like an actress in the morning, uh, four actors on the next set for 2 hours, and then three actors on the last set for 2 hours. So it's like there wasn't really any time to really even breathe or take a break. I mean, I broke multiple laws. I was frustrated over it, but you know what? We got it done. So now I've got to take everyone out to dinner as a way of saying, "Hey, thank you." Your cast and your crew are the ones that will always make this happen for you. So you have to show them some level of gratitude and definitely show them respect. Like these people don't have to be there, especially if they're not getting paid any actual money. They don't have to be there. They're making your vision come to life. You have to like really appreciate them for that. So
So you have your script, you have your equipment, you have your crew. So
shot list.
yeah, you have your shot list, and hopefully at this point, I know we didn't mention it specifically. You have your schedule, because
Mm-hmm.
everything should be scheduled out. You
You
need
have
to
your call
know
sheet.
um, when you're going to shoot what. So yes, call sheets need to be at the ready. Everybody should be aware of their call times and locations. At that point, I think you're ready to make a movie. You have your craft services ready to go, and it's day one of shooting. Now, there are countless numbers of guides on the internet for DIY stuff, no budget, low budget, micro budget, whatever the case may be, whatever you're deciding to work with. There are ways to do everything. One of one of my favorite things was back in the day getting like white styrofoam, just panels of it, and using it, for bounce boards.
Oh yeah. You can use anything white you can use as a bounce board. You can use like you said, the white styrofoam. You can go use like a poster board from the dollar store, for Christ's sake. You can get like whatever you need. You know, look at El Mariachi, okay? The definitive low budget film that launched an entire career. Okay, Robert Rodriguez with El Mariachi. He didn't have professional lights. He took himself to a hardware store and got like construction lights, so like the ones that you clip to like like the wood beams and everything else, like like for like the basic carpentry lighting.
I've
That's what
used
he
those
had,
myself.
and they work. They work amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They really do a good job with actually working as like a makeshift light on set. Like the biggest thing, guys, I've got to say this: if you have nothing, do not feel embarrassed for going out and using what you have to make things happen. Don't be embarrassed of using your cell phone to record something. Again, the short film that Josh posted in the comment section. was shot through a cell phone by Zack Snyder. Again, not a fan of his, but I appreciate him doing that. And it's actually a very well done film. You guys don't have to be embarrassed of using a cell phone. There was a guy that was in our group that used a cell phone for a lot of his short films, and they're more like little scenes. But you know what the thing is they look good, but he got shit done.
Wasn't
Plus,
Tangerine shot
the,
on a phone?
I think so, yeah. But and the bright side of using a cell phone to make a short film, you can get away with so much more. Like you can get away with so much if you're just using a cell phone. No one's going to think twice about coming up and asking you for a permit or asking you for insurance or anything like that. You're using a cell phone. No one's going to hassle you. Don't be embarrassed. Just go get your footage and go get ready. And, when you're shooting, what is it? I think it's like write what you can afford to film what you're able, and also write what you're capable of filming, just technically.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're filming, film it with the planning of completely, and this is the part of the shot list. Shoot to edits. Because if you're not editing it yourself, I'm not editing the footage, myself right now, for the what we're working on, but I was trying to get as much footage as we could, so the people or person or people who want to take a crack at editing aren't going to have a headache and get a migraine from trying to piece together the footage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I mean, that's all I got. What you got to add to this, Josh? I'll quote Danielle. What you know about that young blood?
Well, I did have a line that I was a thread that I was about to tell them, but I don't remember what it is now.
Okay.
Actors. Oh yes. Okay, took me a second to get there, but I finally got there. When
Yay.
okay.
That's what she
just,
said.
to step back just a second. There will be people out there that will look at you filming something on your phone, and I don't want to say be snobby, but they'll totally be snobby about it. Because there are people that believe you cannot do this, that it is some sort of affront to the cinematic gods that you use something that everybody has to shoot a movie. No, they're like, it's not a real movie unless it's done with a film camera or a red or whatever. That's, I'm telling you,
there's
got to
be like a $10,000 piece of equipment. Yeah, it's got to be a $10,000 piece of equipment with a bustling film crew and someone shouting at an intern about coffee. Guys, film sets. If you know what, do you have any of the pictures of any of the I don't want to share the project right now because it's nowhere near ready to share. But do you have any pictures that you can post with the camera that we used to film what we were working on the last 2 weekends?
Let me just look into a file real quick. Keep everybody busy.
Because anyone that's curious as to what we filmed with, it's not like it was a cheap camera. I don't want to say it was a cheap camera, but the reason why I want Josh to show this picture is because I want you to understand the realistic aspect of what a lot of independent film sets are with a limited budget. I had spent more than I expected to spend on this, but I'm very comfortable with my choices because everyone was as safe as possible on set. Everything was covered if anything went wrong. But it was nothing fancy. It was absolutely nothing fancy. Even this past weekend, camera on a tripod, and going back to the cast and crew, Josh, I'll even say this, and people will just tear that. I absolutely, Lanier and Harry, the two of the actors, and even Jessica, our production coordinator. I have to say, everyone jumped on board to make sure this production went as smooth as possible because with the bounce boards and everything else, and like with the filters, like we used like to kind of drown out like the sunlight from bouncing off of the actors' faces. When Lanier or Harry were not in frame and it was Brian, they jumped in and they held this thing just to make sure that the light wasn't bouncing off. Like they didn't have to do this. They were just brought on board as actors. They could have just, when they weren't on camera, just sat off to the side and recited their lines as is expected of them for Brian to react to them, and vice versa if like Brian's offset. But there are pictures that I took because I was so proud of like this cast and crew for just jumping in and making things happen by taking on roles that were not theirs to take on to make sure this went smoothly. And mind you, people were paid with food. That's how people were paid for these productions. Like, I mean, it's like it is possible to find people to jump on board to help you out. And I was telling Josh, like I spoke to one of the actresses, and I told I wanted to invite her into the group that we do filming that we film with, and she's excited to do it because she had a great time just filming with us this past month. She had a great time on set. The cast and crew, they were, granted there was a little tension at times, right, Josh? But there was no hostility. There was a butting of heads over like the ideas and the direction of things. But when you're by yourself, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But even with that, I cannot thank any of these people enough because they came on board and they got shit done. And they did it because they really liked what they saw of the project. They really believed in what they said. And even like this past weekend, the script for what we used versus what was actually in the original version of it was vastly different. But, the cast came together and they made it work and they had a great time doing it. But yeah, I mean, like Josh said, you can find quality people that just want to film something for the love of filming, that don't expect to get paid like industry, like, top level wages. I mean, I got chastised on Facebook when I started the group. I started a group, and I think in the post was saying flat out, like, I'm not getting paid. You will not working together and building a relationship with each other, not exposure, but a relationship with each other, a future film family. If you have a project, you help me with my project, you have a project, I'd be more than happy to jump on your project. What do you need me to do? If I don't know how to do it, I will learn how to do it. If you have somebody you can bring on board for that project, and we only have we have one, like at the time we started off, we only had Mark who did audio recording and mixing in the field. We had another guy, I believe Mark actually showed him how to use his equipment. And he came on board to help Mark record audio for one of Mark's projects. And it was like this rotating, it's kind of like a film school of sorts, but it's a film school, but it's kind of more like a trade school. You learn by doing.
I'm going to have to stop you right there, Brandon, real quick. I'm getting some sort of staticky feedback from your line.
Oh, from my line?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I apologize, guys. But yeah, like the whole point of what I'm trying to say is that you can. Are you shushing me?
No, I was trying to imitate the sound.
Oh, okay. No, I'm gonna say like this son of a bitch right here. No, but you can find people that will be more than happy to come on board to help you make things happen, especially if it's in an area where, there's no film crews. People want to work on a film set. You can make one. Be mindful of the cast, though. Be mindful of the crew. Make sure that they're comfortable. Make sure that they're happy. Lose the ego. Leave that at the door, because remember, even though I say don't be embarrassed by using a cell phone to film with, whatever ego you have, remember, You're using a cell phone to film with. You don't have a big feature film set that you're like, commanding like, 15 actors at once with a first assistant director manning an entire crew behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's be humble. It goes a long way. But yeah, it's despite being chastised by people on Facebook when I posted my original comments on one of the filmmaking groups, I ended up with an entire family of, fellow people that just want to see things that they write get made. Had it not been for COVID, I believe we'd have quite a few more in the pipeline right now. But when I mentioned what we were working on, Brian jumped at it. Mark, Brian brought on his friend Matt, who I'd like to think is a friend of mine now. Like Matt's a really great guy. He was our cinematographer, and he just offered his expertise at all times. He was very professional, very courteous, really sweet guy. And Brian's like Brian, Mark, and Matt are three of the sweetest people rather that you'll ever meet in your life. They're awesome people. There are more people like that out there that will help you out with your stuff, but you have to understand the biggest thing you have to take away if you're going to do something. It's not a one-sided thing. If someone is going to do something for you, you are absolutely, in my mind, you are indebted to them to help them with something on any level that you can. Whatever you're good at, bring it to the table and help them out in return. They're scratching your back, you scratch theirs. So Josh, what is next? Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, let's see. Take care of your cast and crew. That's probably the most important thing you can do, period. Because, like you said, they're donating something that they can never get back, and that's their time. And time is absolutely a precious thing. They're giving you a piece of their life.
Yes, exactly.
So the least you could do is be appreciative, even if it's the worst actor in the world or the worst whatever. Just be appreciative of the time that they're giving to you. After all, you brought them on board. So if something happens, guess what? You did it. If you bring a jerk onto set, that's on you, buddy. Because you brought them on. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean, it's cool that they were a jerk, but remember, you have to think about these things from the jump. And they're just there for a day. And if you don't like him, just get rid of him.
Yeah, and don't kill them, though. Just, boot them. Fire them.
Like Rafi says, you want me to take care of that? Yeah. Did you set my cat on fire? I'm sorry, league reference. Anyway, so you filmed everything. You got, your dozen different angles. You're like, I love that Dutch angle, so I'm gonna blah 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 blah. Now, I guess it's time to kick it over to the dark room, to the dark dwellers. It's time to send it to editing. Dun dun dun.
Well, I mean, and you can still also, mind you, you can still edit yourself. There are editing apps on your phones. It's not fancy. It's really not. But if you learn them in and out, there's one that I got pretty good at. I just can't remember which the hell one it was, because there's so many of them. But you can also edit this yourself. It may not be like this big art house production that you may see in your mind. It may actually kind of suck. But you can learn how to master these editing projects or these editing programs.
So, yeah. Before that, I will say, hey, just a real quick tip. You could also do green screen. Yeah, you can. It's super simple. They sell these really ugly green drapes or green sheets at Walmart, right? If you want to do green screen, do green screen. Get freaking construction paper, tape it to the wall. As long as it's well lit, you're good. And then you can like start using the chroma key and da 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 da. Anyway, just another little quick DIY stuff. But yeah, another thing with the editing, like Brandon says, it is a complicated process if you're using complicated stuff. What we're talking about on the most basic level is, okay, what we're going to do is put one scene in front of the other, kind of like walking, one foot in front of the other, and you'll use your fades and your swipes and whatever you feel fits your movie is best. And that's not us for, we're not judging your art here. We're just telling you how to do it, ish. So throw that into the old editing machine, and you know what? Why don't you add some music to it?
Yep.
Here's another little. Well, it's not a pro tip. It's kind of like a non-pro tip. You can use music, but getting rights for like songs is hard and generally expensive. You've heard on this show, you remember Scott Christian Sava?
Oh yeah,
he was able
great
to
guy.
get Queen not to donate songs, but to really cut their rate because they enjoyed what they saw. I'm not saying you can do that. I mean, it's always worth a shot, but even at a very reduced rate, it's going to be very pricey. So let's.
Didn't he say didn't he say that added like $40,000 to the budget or something like that? Like originally it was like I think it was an astronomical price. I think song was "Don't Stop Me Now."
Mm-hmm.
But it was like I think it was close to like just to use that song. It was tens and tens of thousands of dollars to use that song, and they knocked it down from that price to just maybe like tens of thousands of dollars. Like, just I think they cut it in half for them because they liked what they saw.
Exactly.
They thought it was funny.
So here's what I'm going to suggest to you because it's something that I've done on a couple of different occasions for a couple of different projects. First thing, there is a wealth of stuff in the Creative Commons. There are search engines that you can use that will let you narrow down music that you can use for free with only that tag at the end that says this is where the music comes from. The band, the writer, whatever the case may be, whatever credit needs to be put in. It'll be listed on there. So you can just do a simple Google search of stuff in the Creative Commons and royalty-free music. And surprisingly enough, there is some really good stuff there. There are actual musicians out there that just want their music to be heard. So they're willing to let you use it for free. And again, the least you could do is make sure there's a copy of the film available to them. That's the absolute least you could do to let them know that their art is helping enhance your art. So they're not asking for money. Just, my personal recommendation, hook them up with something, even if it's just a copy of the thing that you made. Another favorite thing of mine to do is talk to your local musicians. Pretty much every city, every town has a local music scene of some sort. And you would be surprised at how little it takes to get a musician interested into not only making their songs available to you, like their catalog available to you, but in some situations they they would be willing to compose and score and create new music for your project. I'm not saying it's a common thing, but it is a thing that could happen. And the only way to do that is to reach out and have these conversations with the people in your area. I can't tell you how valuable having some of these people in your contacts list can be, especially when you want to do more projects and they see that what you did, kind of fits them too. So, you
Yep.
could be building a nice relationship.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, and here's the thing. And after like the editing process is done, here's one thing I've got to stress. If you have actors, okay, if you have actors in your, I guess, lineup, people that want, let me rephrase it. If you have people that want to be actors in your lineup, that want to get somewhere with acting, they want something and you can't afford to pay them and you feel like food is not enough, provide them a reel. Like, of course, they're going to see the short film. But the more you work with them, the more reels you can give them. And the closer that relationship gets to where then if they have something that they need your help on, this goes back to what I was saying, help them out. Don't expect things, don't go to them and be like, oh, well, thank you for coming on and doing mine for zero monetary gain. I need to get paid. It's not how it works. If you bring on people with the understanding that they are not getting paid, or it's like a deferred payment or something like that, but then you feel like you are entitled to getting paid for your time, whereas they are not, guess what? No one's going to want to work with you. Is paying people preferred? Of course it is. But for like doing something on a minimal budget, it's not illegal not to pay them. It's just like they're kind of doing you a favor. I mean, I've got a mechanic friend of mine that will change my oil in Florida. He does a lot of stuff for me. My best friend in New Jersey is a mechanic. Do I pay him? No. I offer them services. Like, oh, you and the wife want to go on a date night tonight? Okay. Well, how many times do I have to babysit your kids to help you out? All 6 of them. You have any idea how much work goes into babysitting 6 kids?
Yes, I do.
Like, my lord. But not to say I don't love them. I adore all those kids. But holy shit, dude. But no, you always, always, always have to look out for other people. And so with editing, when you're done editing the project, focus on the reels. Focus on the project first. You always have to get that project done. When that is done, and also communicate with the cast and crew. When you wrap on shooting, it is not the end of communicating with people. You still have to communicate with them. Make sure that they know that you appreciate them. Keep that relationship solid. These people you never know who someone knows. The last thing you want is to have someone look at you like some kind of like, I don't know, like pompous jackass and have that be your reputation. Not a good look.
Mm-hmm.
So communicate with them. Always express your gratitude towards them. And, mean it. Even if it's someone that you didn't really, let's say, get along with too well, still express your gratitude because, again, without that person, it still would not have happened.
And along those notes, I would like to say, make sure you have a detailed list of everybody that pitched in. Make sure the names are spelled correctly. And put those people in the credits. If somebody showed up, for a day to hold the boom, list it. If somebody showed up, for a couple of days to just, I don't know, press a button, list it. There is something about seeing your name on screen that is very gratifying to people. And you know what? I still love to see it. It's always nice to see your name in the credits because for me it makes me feel like I've accomplished something. I've been a part of something.
Yeah, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you should make sure, like I said, spell their names correctly. There have been times my name has not been spelled correctly. And that always made me go, oh, I'm glad I was included, but I don't know who Mr. Chifty is. True story. So, yeah, if somebody's like, I brought cupcakes, if your mom brought cupcakes, at the very end say, special thanks to Mom for bringing those banging cupcakes. You know what? She's going to love you for that. It's your mom. She's going to love you anyway. But that little added recognition is still nice.
Some moms don't love their kids, right? Like, I mean, like there's you read the never mind. I was going to go to a very dark joke.
So you have your movie. It's cut. It's ready. You've been keeping in contact with the cast and the crew, saying, "Hey guys, we did it. It's done." While this isn't mandatory by any means, I like the Kevin Smith approach of what I consider the next step. Those people that helped make it happen, invite them somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's your house or if it's, the library or if you actually rent out a theater, which you can do for basically $100 these days. Screen it for them.
Oh yeah.
Bring everybody together to see what you did together. That's what, Kevin Smith, he wraps filming and is like, all right, everybody, we're going to my house to watch the movie we made. And to me, that just sounds like a good time.
Creepy.
Yeah. In some cases, like, look at it. Come on, everybody, let's look at the movie we made. Now take off your pants.
What's the Dane Cook joke? You lock the door and it's like
where's your car keys?
You're going nowhere.
That kind of party. But yeah, have a nice, screening for everybody. And that's pretty much all I can say for taking care of your cast and crew. Because after that, you've got a finished film, and what do you do with it? What do you do with your movie when it's done? I think the easy choice is always, throw it on YouTube, right? You spend all this time making a movie, throw it on YouTube. Maybe all you wanted to do was make a movie, and you just want it out there. Sure, whatever. But there are other avenues, other money-making avenues, and depending on how serious you are and how much time and effort you actually put into this thing, you could throw it somewhere and make a few bucks possibly. But
yeah,
it all comes down to when it is being distributed, wherever it's going to be distributed, get the word out. Let people know that you did a thing. That way, if you want to, monetize it or, try to make something of it, you got people going to it and tell them to share it. Get the word out that this thing was done. I watched a couple of movies actually last weekend. And I gotta be honest. They were not good. They were not good. I really don't want to say the names, but they were the kind of movies that are freely available on YouTube, and it's a situation where you see somebody who really wants to make a movie, and they do, but it's oh, I'm struggling here, Brandon. You look at
I'm
the
trying to keep
movie.
up.
What's that?
I'm trying to keep up with you.
Okay. Remember I was telling you about those movies I watched last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh God.
Part,
Oh
part of me is
Lord.
like, good for you. You made it. You made the
Yeah.
movie.
See, okay, then you know what? I'll be the bad cop here. These movies are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They're actually, I would actually go so far as to say that they're garbage. But the thing is they're not garbage because they're made. I respect the filmmaker. He made these movies. Josh always ends each episode with "Don't let anyone, like stop you from doing something," and that you will always be the one person to get in your way. Now, with that being the case, I'm not going to call the guy out in case we ever have him on the show. I'm going to be an absolute sweetheart to him, and then we'll just talk smack after he's off the show. Joking, joking, joking. Uh, but his movies. This man has 20 plus feature films over a span of I think like 4 years. Take your time. Tell a cohesive story. These movies do not. It's actually almost impossible to even follow them. If your movie takes place in a country, you know what? I get it. Like this whole movie, you can tell this movie was almost all of it was guerrilla style shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a scene where they're filming someone in an airport. Fastest way to get your ass arrested is to break out a camera in an airport and start making a movie without letting them know and having anything secured. No insurance, no nothing. These movies are the epitome of what we were talking about, making a movie for next to nothing. Much respect to him for making these movies. My absolute respect. My hat's off to him actually for making these movies. But he's just rushing through these movies. I mean, Uwe Boll, the talented director behind The House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark and Blood Rain.
I never thought you'd
His
use
movies,
that word for Yui Ball.
his movies make more sense than this guy's movies do. There's a better flow to them and better acting in his movies than what this guy has, and there's better editing. His movies are rushed. So
Yeah, you could tell there's no one there to. I mean, no one has a light meter. that's for sure.
nope.
None of the shots seem actually planned. I don't think, and it's one of the reasons why I said, hey, make sure everything's scripted. There's like a 10-minute scene in a living room with people just talking, and you can tell they're not reciting lines. They're just chatting. It's like the actors are having a chat, and it was just filmed. But then every once in a while, the lead slash director slash writer, it was all the same guy, would throw in a bit of the like a bit of the plot, and kind of bring everybody back on board like they were the characters again.
Yeah.
And it's it's really weird to see them like go in and out of character from casual conversation to, oh, I guess yeah we're right plot and gosh, I'll give him this much. Not only did he make a movie, but he made a movie that I watched to the end twice because there was a sequel. So good for you,
Yeah.
buddy.
You actually watched that movie?
Yeah, I watched both.
Oh my God.
Although, to be fair, the second one, which strangely enough wasn't as good as the first, but when are sequels ever? Minus a few rarities.
I was gonna say Terminator 2.
Yeah, there are exceptions to the rule, but he didn't. I don't think he wrote or directed the sequel.
I can guarantee you didn't.
It just seems like a weird title to make a cash grab on. Like, okay, I'm gonna make a sequel to this. Why?
And was there a helicopter at all in that movie? Because there was one on the box art.
No.
Okay. He had an Apache helicopter on the poster. I mean, kudos for
Definitely not in
dreaming
the
big,
movie that I
but
watched.
okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything there.
It was, yeah. But like I said, good for him for making it happen, and making it enough to finish. So you have your movie, you're putting it out there for people to see, and the last thing I can say is people are going to talk about it if they see it, right? And they're going to love it, they're going to hate it. You're going to get all sorts of reactions, even if it's a universal hate.
But you know what? We've brought up the idea of making a film for nothing.
Yeah.
Or a little next to nothing. Examples.
Yeah.
Saw.
Mm-hmm.
Saw came from a short film that was filmed on next to no budget whatsoever. The movie Lights Out, the horror film, Lights Out. Once again, it was filmed for a absolute shoestring budget. The short film that it's based off of. And same thing goes for that movie Mama. Now, I don't really think Mama is even a good film at all. I think Lights Out actually kind of sucked as well, which is a shame because the short that it's based off of was terrifying to me. But Mama came from a short film, just a concept. But it was filmed for next to nothing, and it was posted online, posted in film festivals on YouTube. And because of the notoriety it got optioned off. You never know what's going to happen with what you come out with. If it's an original and fresh idea, you have no clue where it might take you. Mm-hmm. No clue.
Look at the Blair Witch Project.
Absolutely.
We have some cameras. We have some actors. Let's create some lore.
Yeah, and it was all equipment that they took from their film school, I believe. Like, that's all it was. It was just equipment they took from their film school and 3 actors. And the movie, all they did the entire movie was leave them instructions in the film canisters and scare the shit out of them. That's all they did. That's how they directed the movie. And guess what? It worked.
I will say the hype for that one might have been the most genius thing. The marketing was pure brilliance. It was right on the cusp of the internet age where people were asking, is this real? And there were just enough people on the internet to either confirm or deny, and they did both. So, talk about a master strategy, getting people to talk about your movie. Your little movie about 3 people that are in the woods fighting an imaginary witch. It is, one of the funny things, just a little fun fact about the Blair Witch Project. The footage that they shot of people in the town, that was, how do I put this? The footage of the real townspeople hearing about the Blair Witch, some of them were like, no, I've never heard of it. But some of them, excuse me, some of them were like, oh, yeah. And then the people shooting were like, yeah, let's keep them going. Let's find out more. They're building this story for us. And they would just let the townspeople kind of ramble on about the Blair Witch, even though apparently not actually a thing. But they've heard of it. You know how some people can be. You bring them some information, they're like, oh yeah, I knew the whole time.
Yeah, it was a made up legend. Like just some they like created themselves, and then no one ever wants to be left out of like pop culture or like a popular local belief. And face it, Burkittsville, Maryland. I don't know if you've ever been there. I've driven through there a few times. It is a nowhere town, or at least it was last time I drove through there. I cannot imagine being part of a community with a couple hundred, maybe like a very few thousand people, and being the only jackass that doesn't know about like this local legend. Like, oh yeah,
You don't know
yeah,
about that?
I was raised hearing about that. Like, who doesn't know about the Blair Witch? But Josh, it is that time, buddy.
Is it? Yeah, I guess it is.
It
Looking
well,
at the
it is.
clock.
It is for me.
All right, Brandon, where can people find you on the medias of social?
You can find me on Instagram, instagram.com/ bjacksman82. It is one of a few platforms where I'm currently not serving any social media prison time. You can also find our page for the WADcast on Instagram at instagram.com / the WADcast. Same with Facebook, facebook.com / the WADcast. You'll know our pages for this show by the picture of the white banner in a black circle. And inside the white banner, it says the WADcast. Give us a like, give us a follow, and chime in on any of our shows in the future. We'd love to interact with you guys. So far, it's just my father that commented tonight, which means if you guys are listening, you don't love us enough to say hi. Josh, what about you?
Well, as always, you can find me on Twitter at SkidComic or at Simicore Studios or at WADcastPod. I don't tweet very often at all. Sorry. I did put out some cool video game footage from Apex Legends the other day on my Twitter account at SkidComic. So, hey, if you're into that, check that out. Or you can go to the Facebook page for the WADcast or the Facebook page for Simicore Studios. We broadcast here live every week, Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and you can join us in the live chat and have conversations, and we can do this thing here each and every week. Wow. I guess it's really that time. You want to say goodnight before I hit the music?
I would love to say good night. Good night. I gotta get ready to go to work here. So.
All right. Well, the music's playing for the audio podcast listeners. What can I say? The only thing standing between you and your dream is you. If you want to make something, do it. There are a lot of people that have done it already, and there's no reason you can't be one of them. We've basically outlined a way to do it if you want to make a movie. And it's not even going to cost you an arm and a leg. Just whatever you have available is good enough to make the movie. If you want to take it to the next step, well, that's a story for a different day. So remember, you are the one that can make your dreams come true, and I hope you decide to do that in 2021. Because tomorrow's not guaranteed, people. Do it today. For Brandon, I'm Josh. This has been the WADcast episode number 51. Have a good night.